course,
This
a lot of
conference will
what
now be
happens,
recorded.
of course, now we know that a lot of things that are happening are out of our control. But what is under our control is our response. So we don't want to react to stress. We don't want to react to events. We want to respond. And there's a big difference between react and response. Reaction is automatic. It just happens. And sometimes we regret what our behavior when we react. Response is mindful and thoughtful. Response is when you take a pause, take a deep breath, and then move forward. So we want to retrain our brain and retrain our body from reacting into responding. And how do we do that? It's multiple ways that you can do it, and whatever speaks to you, you can decide to practice. Deep breathing is an extremely helpful way to do that, to come back to your center, come back to your true self, to feel grounded, to feel solid, and make the decisions that will be beneficial in the long term. So there's a saying, breath is the master of the mind, and it really is true. Breath, breathing is the most vital function. You can go on without food for maybe 30 days and water for maybe five or less days, but for breathing, it's only a couple minutes. So your brain is wired to pay attention to breathing. And if you're slowing down your breathing and you're sending the message to your brain, I am calm and I'm at peace, your brain is wired to hear that from the lungs and from how you're breathing. So your brain, by default, will recenter and redirect its attention towards what's happening with the lungs. So it's an incredibly powerful way to induce this calmer state and peaceful state through activating the parasympathetic nervous system and calming down the stress response through the vagal nerve that runs from the brain into the vital organs. So mindfulness, meditation, any kind of contemplative practices, reflective practices, prayer, anything that really will help you to just slow down for a minute and take a deep breath and feel centered. Any one of these activities or practices are extremely beneficial. And research does support that. Connecting with your body, yoga, my passion, is extremely helpful as well. And research does show that yoga, mindfulness, these practices have been shown in multiple studies as effective and sometimes more effective to release feelings of anxiety and depression, reduce stress. And it's unfortunate that we don't tend to know the powerful benefits of these practices and turn to other avenues before trying something like this. And of course, self-care is an important aspect of reducing stress, whatever it is for you. It can be hobbies, being in nature. But what's the most important part of self-care is disconnecting from your usual routine for a minute, disconnecting from the news, disconnecting from technology, social media, and just taking some time to recharge and refuel. And sleep is an important part of self-care. Actually, metabolism of the brain and getting rid of the debris that accumulates in the cells that can later become stuck together, produce plaques, and lead to neurodegenerative diseases. Sleep is a very important part of healthy metabolism, not just in the body, but in the brain as well. So we need good sleep to support brain health. We need good sleep to make sure that the brain metabolizes in a healthy way, and all the debris and waste that's produced in the brain is out as it should be. The second step is addressing cardiovascular health. A lot of studies are showing a link between cardiovascular problems and poor brain health, dementias due to neurodegenerative diseases and other problems. So we know there's a strong link. Addressing weight is very important in overall approach in reducing cardiovascular health problems. Tobacco is a huge contributor to those issues as well. Excessive use of caffeine and alcohol can contribute to that as well. So sometimes it might be helpful to talk to your doctor and discuss the possibility of the need for maybe some medications, if nothing else works, to address cardiovascular health problems. And some research does show that people who take statins have sometimes lowered their risk of dementia and other problems in the brain. The third is very obvious, eating well. And I know that we all know how important healthy diet is, but we tend to think about it as healthy for our weight and for our health, but not so much for our brain. But it is extremely important for our brain as well. And the reason being is that more and more research now is coming out to show that microbiome, the bacteria that lives in the gut, is actually something that can be linked to brain function, to mental health, to cognitive issues and emotional issues. So we know that unhealthy gut bacteria can actually travel through bloodstream and other ways, and it can actually reach the brain. So it's extremely important to have good nutrition, not only for your body, but for your brain as well. What are the good eating habits? Based on research, Mediterranean approach, and that means more veggies, less animal products, less meat, less sugar, less fast carbs such as potatoes, rice, and pasta, less fried foods, less sodas and juices, and so forth. Another approach is to reduce the portions and have healthy snacks in between, as opposed to big meals spaced apart. And some good tips are substituting. So consuming what you already do eat, but making some small tweaks which are easier to handle than major changes. For example, brown a whole grain, a whole wheat instead of white flour, or bread, or rice, or pasta. Olive oil instead of butter or margarine. Instead of using salad dressings, using oil and balsamic vinegar. Instead of using regular potatoes, using sweet potatoes, those are slow carbs instead of fast carbs. Instead of, if you have a sweet tooth like I do, instead of dessert, choosing fruit. Instead of milk chocolate, choosing dark chocolate. And if you want more flavor, trying to rely on spices more than sauces and dressings. Sauces and dressings tend to have a lot of sugar, a lot of unhealthy fats. We want to reduce that. So trying different spices, experimenting, that can be very helpful. More omegas, more fish. I wouldn't recommend tilapia. It tends to be very unhealthy environments that it's grown in, but the rest of it is usually pretty good for you. More water, and be mindful when you eat. Slow down, put everything aside, and just focus on what you're eating, and trying to appreciate the texture and the smell and the taste, and not eating too fast, giving yourself time and taking the time to really fully experience the meal, fully experience each food, and as opposed to, multitasking and just going through food so fast like a lot of us do. The next item is moving the body. Of course, again, we all know how exercising is important, but it's very, very important for the brain as well. It improves oxygenation of the brain, and as a result, it improves brain functioning. And just like mindfulness and yoga, exercise have been shown to be sometimes as effective and sometimes even more effective than medications for emotional issues. And I'm not talking about severe mental health problems like schizophrenia, but things like anxiety, depression, stress. Those can be effectively addressed by regular exercise for a lot of people. So what are the changes that can be easily initiated? when we think about exercising, sometimes we tend to think of extremes like doing boot camps and heavy weightlifting and running long distance, but it's really not the case. Any kind of mild or moderate activity that will raise your heart rate is great. For example, brisk walking. We're so lucky to live near the beaches and beautiful parks and have good weather. So it's really there for us at most of the year to just be able to take a walk, enjoy the nature, connect with nature, and get that heart rate up and get the body moving, get the oxygen and the blood flowing. Trying to reduce sedentary lifestyle, playing sports instead of just watching them. Using technology is great for some of us who like to see the steps and to see how many minutes you were active and so forth. And also it's very helpful to team up with others and maybe even compete a little bit with others, but really team up and join forces to promote motivation and accountability. The next element is increasing socialization, and this is something that we tend to overlook, but studies do show that people who are engaged socially, who have a lot of quality, meaningful interactions, are actually more resilient in terms of their brain health and have lower risk of cognitive decline, cognitive problems, and dementia. So it's a great way to stimulate the brain, is socialization. And it's not about the quantity, it's really about the quality. So small talk is not going to work. For this, it has to be meaningful interactions, and they have to be consistent on a consistent basis. Trying to do face-to-face, of course, now it's not always possible, but maybe using video so that you can see the other person, you can see the body language, the facial expression. Maybe setting up a video phone call with somebody every week or twice a week, maybe creating some kind of a Zoom social hour with your friends, but something that will be on a regular basis and where you would actually interact on a meaningful level and brainstorm and bounce ideas back and forth. Volunteering is a great way to increase socialization as well, joining clubs, being part of the community. All of these things can be great to increase socialization. And the last item here is exercising the brain. So just like you want to exercise your body, you want to exercise your brain. And the reason being is just like the muscles, the more we build over a lifetime, the less we will lose with aging. The same applies to the brain. It's called cognitive reserve, and it is directly related to neuroplasticity as well. The more cognitive reserve you build throughout your life, the less you will be affected by normal effects of aging or neuropathology due to different conditions, neurological conditions. So the more you build, the less you will lose. It's kind of like investing into your retirement 401k. The more you build now, the less you can, the more you will be able to spend, the more relaxed you can be when you retire. Also, there's evidence to support use it or lose it principle. The less you use your brain, the less likely you are to have a healthy and resilient and active and young brain. So we have to exercise the brain, keep it active, keep it sharp. And what does that is new experiences, new learning, spontaneity, humor, being playful, stimulating the brain on a consistent basis. So just doing something once is not going to be enough. For brain plasticity to become a permanent change in the brain, it has to be done on a regular basis. So you have to be really committed to this. And what are some of the ways to achieve this? New learning is one of the best ones. So a lot of times you hear people say, oh, I watch documentaries, I read books, I do Sudoku. Well, guess what? It's not going to be stimulating your brain because you already know how to do those things. You're not actively engaging with this material. You're kind of going through the motions. It's only the new learning that will really create this positive change. So it's very important to find new ways to exercise the brain. Some examples can be learning a new language or a musical instrument. And musical instrument is especially helpful because you also engage your eye-hand coordination. So you're exercising the part of your brain that deals with motor, sensory motor functioning. Travel is a great way to expose yourself to new information and new learning. Taking an online course, I don't know if you've heard, there's this website Coursera that has free courses on every topic you can imagine from top universities of the world for free. You have Princeton and Oxford and Columbia there, and these universities are providing online courses free of charge. So if you have time on your hands, this is one of the things that can really help you boost brain plasticity and brain resilience. And some things to consider: taking it slow is okay, not trying to make abrupt changes. We know that slow, consistent baby steps in the long run actually are more likely to stick than a huge change overnight. So just taking it one thing at a time, one item at a time, and maybe every month, every week, adding something new to your routine is a good approach. So slow and persistent is good. Baby steps. The next one is avoiding all or nothing thinking. Even if you don't reach certain goals, it's okay as long as your mindset is there and as long as you tried, that's good. So every little change is a positive step. Not being too hard on yourself, being forgiving and caring and loving and self-compassionate. So not beating yourself up if something doesn't always work out or go as planned. And joining forces, joining a community or partnering with the person in your in your circle to boost each other's confidence and to boost motivation and do something together that you're more likely to commit to compared if you're just doing it on your own. So to conclude, I hope the main takeaway from all of this is a lot of times we think about aging, we think about retirement, and we have all these goals. Well, when I retire, I'm going to do A, B, C, and X, Y, and Z. But for you to stay sharp, for any one of us to stay sharp and have healthy brain and young brain, these changes have to start happening now, no matter how old you are, because this is something you build over a lifetime. It's very hard to make significant changes and benefit the brain when there's already deterioration going on in the brain and the body. So the earlier you start thinking about this and taking steps towards cognitive vitality and brain health, the better it is. So it's never too late, but it's also never too early. And that's all I have. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Natalia. Our second presenter today is Islara Sauto from Ideas Incorporated, who will be presenting on immunity and what you need to know. Islara has a medical background and a master's degree in public health from the University of Tennessee. As president and CEO of Ideas Incorporated, Islara has provided consulting services in community health to local entities, as well as state and national organizations and universities for over 23 years. Islara's experience includes community health assessments, health planning, and public health program design and evaluations. Most recently, she has expanded into personal health coaching using her health education and medical background. She has served as a member on many local and national community health boards and advisory councils. In 1999, she was one of the 3 founding members of the Health Consortium for Miami-Dade County and has continued to support and promote its engagement with the community. Her local career has included regional director positions at the American Heart Association, the Health Council of South Florida, and the Alliance for Aging. At the University of Miami, she's been a multi-state director of cancer control and an advisor for medical education. Her knowledge and extensive experience have provided her with an exclusive understanding of the diverse community and personal health needs in our unique area. I'll now turn it over to Islara.
Thank you, Robert. And thank you, Natalia. That was a very interesting presentation. And I think it segues nicely with immunity in light of the pandemic and in light of some news today. So after my presentation, the attendees, you all that are here with us today, might start to see some themes, some common themes between both Natalia's presentation and mine. So today I'm going to focus on immunity, and happy to hear that we have a new, as of this morning, news about a new possible candidate for a vaccine from Moderna. That's 94.5% efficacy rate as opposed to Pfizer's, which is 90%. So the race is on, and hopefully we'll all be able to get vaccinated soon. So let's see here. Let's change the slide. Bear with me, please. Okay, next slide. So what will we be talking about today? Well, there's a lot of talk now during the pandemic about immunity, but what exactly is it? How does it work? What happens when it doesn't work very well? And how to boost your immune system, which really segues very nicely with Natalia's presentation. Next. Immunity is the capacity that our bodies have to fight off germs. And germs are simply bacteria, viri or viruses, prions, fungi, and parasites. Immunity is a product of the immune system, which is a very interesting, complex, dynamic system of tissues and cells and organs and little pieces of cells and little pieces of this and that, all in our bodies working together to protect us against diseases. First, by keeping out the germs, and then if the germs manage to get inside our bodies, fighting them off if they manage to get inside. So the interesting thing also is that the immune system has memory, and so it keeps a record of every germ it's ever defeated. So the next time it comes into our body, it can recognize and destroy it quickly if it enters again. If germs do enter the body, the immune system releases special attack cells that assault the intruder to get rid of it. And so this is what happens when the germs are in a battle with these attack cells. We get an infection, and that's just a minor infection because somebody was chewing their fingernails. But infections can happen anywhere in our bodies. If our immunity is strong enough, the germs lose the battle, and our immunity continues to defend and protect us. Next slide, please. Why do we have immunity? Or how can we get immunity? We have immunity, again, to protect us from the billions of germs all around us. Germs is another word for antigen, or antigen is another name for germs. These germs are constantly trying to get in our body, and they come from the contact, touching things, sexual activity, breathing in droplets like what's happening with COVID-19, blood from a shared needle or from touching blood, contaminated food or water, an insect or animal bite or lick. There's all kinds of ways that these germs are constantly trying to get into our body. Next. Two types of immunity to keep in mind. Immunity is a very complicated dynamic, but I've tried to simplify it. But I do want you to know there's two kinds of immunity. One is the immunity that we're born with. If we weren't born with innate immunity during the first 3 months or the first few weeks of life, we would actually be susceptible to every kiss from our grandparents, every diaper change from the people around us, from people touching us. So we have this innate immunity, and it's also called passive immunity because it's passed from the mother to the baby during the last 3 months of pregnancy. Then the second type is acquired, also called adaptive. I don't know why science and medicine has to say different names for the same thing, but just remember, innate, we're born with; acquired, we acquire it. It's learned and kept over a lifetime, okay? And that could come either from exposure to a virus or to bacteria, and we learn the defense to it. It can also be through another person's antibodies, which are the fighting agents, or it can come from vaccines. So that's the one that's got the memory to it. Next. How are we protected from germs? If germs are all around us and we lose our innate ability, what protects us? Well, any little thing can enter, any break in our skin, in our mouths, anything can be an opportunity for those antigens, those germs, to come in, also through our nose and our mouth, which is why we're wearing masks now, right? So the germ blockers that protect us are our skin. That has like a waterproof acidic mantle that secretes oil with bacteria killing properties. There's also the lungs, where we've got mucus, or also called phlegm, in our nose and lungs, and that traps foreign particles, little hairs called cilia that wave the mucus upward so it can be coughed out of our lungs. The cornea in our eyeballs is a clear layer protecting the front of the eye. Special tissues in our guts, in our lungs, and our bladder. We've got tears, saliva, and mucus, and even our urinary tract and bowel systems are constantly flushing out germs. Also, fever. Fever is not necessarily a bad thing, as we're learning with COVID. A rise in temperature can kill some of the microbes or germs and also trigger the body's repair process, as long as it's not too high. By too high, I mean over 104 degrees Fahrenheit. A low-grade fever can help us fight off germs. Next. Let's talk about vaccines for a minute. Vaccine is when we acquire immunity from any compound intentionally put into our bodies to kickstart that immune reaction. The purpose of vaccines is to prevent disease or to make it less severe. And if you know a little bit about public health, you know that there were many epidemics and pandemics, which are big international epidemics. And vaccines helped to stop or to prevent epidemics of measles, diphtheria, polio, mumps, and whooping cough. Vaccines are safe. There's constantly scrupulous testing, constant clinical trials, constant check in the community to make sure that the vaccines are working as they're supposed to. They're constantly being tested for safety by the FDA and regularly checked for purity, potency, and safety. There is no evidence of a link between vaccines and autism. That's a myth that was put out by a publication by an English scientist. Turns out to be wrong. However, if you are allergic to an ingredient in the vaccine, for example, if you're allergic to eggs, talk to your doctor before taking the flu vaccine. How do they work? When that substance is put inside your body, either orally, like one of the polio vaccines, or the flu shot, hopefully the COVID shot soon, you're given a weakened form or a piece of a virus or bacteria. It's not supposed to make you sick. It doesn't make you sick, but it produces antibodies. It makes your body produce antibodies to protect you from that attack. Then if you're ever exposed to the actual germ, your immune system remembers and is prepared to fight the infection. Talk to your doctor about your schedule and your family's schedule for vaccinations. And again, hopefully that COVID vaccine will be here sooner than later. Next. What about immunity to viruses? Viral immunity, and I want to focus on that because of COVID. Viruses aren't alive. They're not living things. They're pieces of things. They're complicated assemblies of proteins and nucleic acids and lipids and carbohydrates. And they can only survive and they can only reproduce by using a host. And the way they do that is they attach themselves. They get in our bodies. They attach themselves to healthy cells called hosts. They enter that healthy cell, hijack them like little Trojan horses. They invade those healthy cells, and then they reprogram them to make new viruses so that our own healthy cells serve as a factory for the viruses to make more little viruses. And that invaded host cell bursts and dies. So viral immunity is developed specifically against specific viral infections. So specific viruses attack specific cells. For example, we're learning that the COVID-19 virus attaches to these receptor cells called AEC2 receptors. We used to think they were only in the lungs, but now we're learning that they're in the gut and they're elsewhere. So the little chart shows that we need to breathe in about 1,000 viruses. That's the threshold before immunity kicks in. So when we sneeze or we talk or we laugh or we yell in a rally, what happens is that we can expel up to about 30,000 droplets containing about 200 million viruses, pieces of protein or lipids or nucleic acids. And that's why we wear a mask, and that's why we're socially distant during COVID. They used to say that 6-foot rule, and now they're saying maybe not, maybe it's more like 10 or 12 feet. Next slide. So this kind of puts it together. It's a video that that I'm going to turn over to Candace, and she's going to show the video to show you kind of in simple terms how the immunity works. But I like the video. It's a little simplistic, but it helps put things together.
This is Bob. This is a germ, also known as an antigen. The germ enters Bob's body through a slice of pizza. Once the germ enters Bob's body, it multiplies. Fortunately, the T cells see them and call the B cells. This is a B cell. Hey! The B cell splits into two cells, the little fighter guy and the memory cell. The fighter cells fight the antigens and stop them from spreading disease. Once the antigens are defeated, the memory cell steps in. They take a picture of the antigen, and then they store it in their memory. So if the antigens come back, they can be defeated more easily. Finally, the killer T cell eats the dead antigens. And if it hadn't been for Bob's healthy immune system, he could be very sick. So keep your immune system healthy by eating right, exercising, and getting plenty of sleep. The end.
Thank you for that. Next slide. So that's basically how the immune system works. It's a constant battle. The bad guys win, we get infected. The good immune system wins, we stay healthy. When we talk about immunity, you may have heard a lot of talking about herd immunity. What is herd immunity? It's when the community gets protected. When enough people in a community become immune, that it stops the disease from spreading. And there's two ways it happens. If many people get sick, they actually get the disease, and after some time develop that immunity, or a much better way, safer, quicker, and more easily controlled, is when a lot of people get vaccinated and then become immune. Okay? So it takes about anywhere, depending on the antigen, it takes anywhere from 40 to 90% of a population to be immune in order to stop that chain of infection and in order to stop the spread of an infectious disease. We're not real sure about how much a community needs to be immune to stop COVID-19, but we think it's about 60, maybe 70%. Depends on the vaccine, okay? So can herd immunity protect us from COVID-19? Maybe, but there's still a lot of questions. When is that vaccine going to be available? We're all holding our breaths, right? Is it safe? We got to make sure it's safe. There's some countries such as Russia and Saudi Arabia, United Emirates, that are using their own vaccine already, vaccinating their populations, but we're not sure if those vaccines are actually safe and efficacious. Then who gets it first? And who's going to decide that? So these are very important public health questions that need to be figured out. And we're already trying to figure them out. There's already lots of systems and mechanics in place for those, for the new vaccinations for COVID-19. Next slide. What happens when immunity doesn't work very well? There's two ways that happens. One is an overactive immune system. When your immune system gets overactive, it can react against itself, or it can make you allergic. And those are, so allergic diseases are when the immune system has too strong a reaction to an allergen, to pollen or insect bites or sinus disease or asthma or eczema or dermatitis, or when the immune system actually attacks your own body. And that can be rare to pretty common. And some of those can be MS, multiple sclerosis, type 1 diabetes, systemic lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, systemic vasculitis. That's the overactive immune system. And then the flip side is the underactive immune system, also called an immunodeficiency. And so that's when the immune system just doesn't function correctly. It's weak, it's slow, and it's making people vulnerable to infections. In severe cases, it can be life-threatening. So immunodeficiency can be inherited. It can be from too much corticosteroids, steroids, or chemotherapy, or it can be caused by another disease, such as certain cancers, maybe HIV/AIDS, or maybe even COVID infection. We don't know. Next. Now, how can you boost your immune system so that it works its optimal self and it protects you from diseases, especially now because COVID is so contagious and so communicable? Okay, number one, exercise. Move your body. We're meant to move. 2, learn to manage your stress. 3, sleep well. 4, eat right. And 5, take proven supplements. And 4 of those are what Natalia has told us. So we're gonna go through those fairly quickly. Next. Okay, so immunity booster number 1, move. I don't like that word exercise. Makes people feel guilty sometimes. But just move. Our bodies were meant to move. 20 to 30 minutes a day. Physical activity increases the number of white blood cells. And as we learned, those are the ones that, some of the cells that are the body's natural defense. Okay, besides boosting immunity, exercise is good, like Natalia showed us, for our heart, brain, skeletal, and digestive system, and it improves our mood. Try moderate aerobic activities, 20 to 30 minutes a day, most days of the week. Next. Manage your stress. Again, thank you, Natalia. Stress makes us more susceptible to viral infections because it releases cortisol, which is the stress hormone. In short bursts, that cortisol can boost immunity by reducing inflammation. For example, that infected finger. But when that stress is chronic, it leads to that cortisol always being present, leading to long-term inflammation. And those sustained high levels of inflammation make your immune system overworked, overtired, and it cannot protect you properly. Also, regular vaccines may not work as well if you have chronic stress and or an anxiety disorder. So proven stress busters: meditate, yoga, deep belly breathing, down deep inside in our belly, not up in the chest. Next. Immune booster number 3, sleep. Okay, German researchers have found that sleeping well promotes T cells. Adults need 7 to 8 hours of sleep. If you don't get enough sleep, sleep loss, or even worse, sleep deprivation, your immune system starts to fail, and it makes vaccines work less effective. And also, if you already have an infection, you might be in pain, and pain can alter your sleep, and that causes a cycle of infection, pain, poor sleep, pain, infection. So sleeping well is super important. Here's some tips for better sleep. You can take couple of naps a day, one in the morning or at lunchtime, one in the afternoon when you get home from work or before dinner. Practice good sleep hygiene. Routine, very important. Go to sleep and wake up same time every day. Saturdays and Sundays included. Your body doesn't know if it's Saturday or Sunday. Your bedroom should be dark, cool, and quiet. Your sheets, your comforters, your pillows, all that. Your mattress should be comfortable for you. Avoid caffeine, exercise, and heavy snacks at least 2 hours for bedtime. I've included some apps for each of these immunity boosters, by the way. Next. Number 4, eat right. 70% of our immune response comes from the gut. Like Natalia told us, without a healthy gut microbiome, bad bacteria take over and cause inflammation, which weakens the immune system even more. So eat more fermented food with live probiotics like kombucha, kimchi, yogurt, sauerkraut. Eat more prebiotics that have high fiber to feed the good bacteria in our gut. Things like beans, chickpeas, lentils. Eat a variety of colorful salads, colorful veggies and fruits. Okay, vegetables with sulforaphane, which is a chemical that actually reverses the decline of immunity with age. And that includes kale, arugula, broccoli, purple cabbage, cauliflower. Peppers for vitamin C, which is an immune superstar. Carrots for vitamin A, another immune superstar. Nuts and seeds for vitamin E, many of us which are deficient in. Blueberries, another superstar, high in flavonoids, which are powerful anti-inflammatory antioxidants. They're particularly great for upper respiratory infections such as the flu and COVID-19. Immunity enemies that we put into our mouths excess alcohol. Alcohol compromises the immune system and harms the liver, which is an important part of that immune system. Added sugars. Sugars lead to inflammation, which also puts the immune system to overdrive against itself. Too much salt, too much sodium, especially from packaged, processed, or fast foods. Did you know that eating just 2 fast food meals a week can weaken your immunity? Be sure to read your food labels on everything you eat, especially processed foods and fast foods. Try to cook your meals at home so you know what you're putting in your mouth. Next. 5, choose your supplements wisely. We used to have a love-hate relationship with supplements. A lot of alternative medical research has been done on supplements. You got to choose your supplements wisely. Make sure that they're evidence-based, that there's supporting research to back them up. Not just any old supplement will do. Okay, there are no vitamins or supplements that are going to help prevent or cure viral infections, including COVID-19. But we've learned in the last few months that certain supplements may help strengthen our immune system's ability to fight them, including vitamin D. Vitamin D comes from sunshine. It also comes from fortified milk. Many of us are deficient. Okay, simple blood work will show if you are deficient. Vitamin D supplements decrease the chance of respiratory tract infections. Okay, if you take a vitamin D supplement, be very careful not to take more than 2,000 international units, IU, a day, because there is vitamin D toxicity. So be careful and get regular blood work. Same with vitamin E and zinc. Another immune booster supplement is vitamin C. Love my vitamin C. You can take up to 2,000 milligrams a day. More than that, it might make your tummy upset, but you should be able to pee it out because it is water soluble. It reduces inflammation. Very important, our vitamin C. Vitamin B6. Especially important to keep the immune system in top condition. You can get it from multivitamin supplement or from fortified cereals. And zinc within your first 24 hours. After that, it's not very effective. So don't bother taking it if you've had the flu for 2 weeks and then you decide to take your zinc. It's not going to help you. Okay? But be careful about zinc toxicity. Don't take more than 150 milligrams a day. Next. Strategies. These are just overall strategies for better immunity. Hygiene. We've been told over and over, wash your hands, keep your house clean, avoid touching your face, continue to wear the mask. Something really cool that's been found out recently is if you breathe through your nose and out through your mouth, there's actually the cells in our nose make nitrous oxide. And nitrous oxide helps fight viruses. That's a new study, a new finding. Okay, so remember your vaccinations because you don't want to get flu plus COVID at the same time. That would be very bad news for you. Keep a healthy lifestyle, sleep well, don't smoke, drink alcohol in moderation, eat right. Think positive thoughts. Positive thoughts are so important. They reduce stress and inflammation. They increase your resilience to infections. Negative emotions can make you more susceptible to viral infections. Minimize stress, especially chronic stress, as Natalia also highlighted. You can do something called the 3 Good Things tool, proven by Duke University Medical Center. And there's been some studies to show that the 3 Good Things tool can have long-lasting health benefits. Every evening before you go to bed, think of 3 good things you did, not 3 good thoughts. They have to be deeds or they have to be an action. Maybe I took 10 minutes to walk around the block. Maybe I called a friend. Maybe I picked up groceries for an elderly neighbor. Maybe I didn't smoke that extra cigarette in my pack. Maybe I didn't drink that third glass of wine. If you're really, really stressed out, or maybe you have mental health issues and have really bad depression, even getting out of bed counts as one of your 3 good things. But it's got to be an action or a deed. So every night before you go to bed, I want you to think of your 3 good things you did that day. Do it for a full week. If it helps you, keep going. Next. It's time for questions. I hope we didn't take too long, but I will turn it over to our moderators. Use your chat screen on the right. You can also send me an email if we don't have time for the questions.
Thank you, Ms. Lara. I'm now going to turn it over to Brianna for our question and answer session.
Thank you. Well, for the sake of time, I'm just going to go over a few questions that were submitted to us by those who registered. And if you guys have any additional questions, please put them in the chat box and we can address them later on. So the first question I have is actually for both of our presenters. So the first question is, how do I maintain and elevate my immune system with low-cost methods? How about boosting my memory?
Natalia, turn on your mic.
Can you repeat that, please?
Of course. So it's a 2-part question. It says, how do I maintain and elevate my immune system with low-cost methods? And the second one is, how do I boost my memory and brain health?
Well, in terms of memory, it is directly related to neuroplasticity. So when we challenge our brain with new information, new learning, actually not only synaptogenesis occurs, which is growing of new connections between neurons, but also neurogenesis, the growth of new neurons can occur in hippocampus, that part of the brain that deals with memory. So the best way to improve memory is to keep learning and keep challenging your brain, which supports neuroplasticity, supports neurogenesis in the brain, and prolongs useful and healthy brain.
And as far as immunity is concerned, we touched on a lot of low cost, no cost ideas, having a positive outlook, eating right, sleeping well, moving your body. So doing those things that we discussed will, some of them don't cost anything. It doesn't cost anything to have a good positive attitude. Next.
Deep breathing is completely free, available at any time of the day to anyone.
That actually brings me to the next question. Someone actually submitted one through the chat box. It says, can you please talk more about the recent research on breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth? And if you have any references. I'm not sure if this is for immunity or brain health either. If either of you guys have a great answer for that.
I touched on it, and then I'll turn it over to Natalia, who may, as a yoga teacher and a brain expert, may be able to complement or supplement what I'm going to say. But recent research since the pandemic in the last 10 months has actually discovered that our nose cells, the cells in the lining of our nose, can produce nitrous oxide. And nitrous oxide has been found to kill viruses. So it's part of our beautiful body's immune system response against viral infections.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then I have another question here. It says, what information can you share regarding vitamin supplements? Are they necessary? And information such as vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, and I believe it says quercetin.
You should be able to get most of your vitamins through healthy eating. So you want to focus on healthy eating in order to get your vitamins. There are some evidence-based, like I mentioned in the webinar, there are some evidence-based findings that show that certain supplements have been proven to help the immune system, such as vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin B1 and B6, and zinc early on in an infection. But you have to be careful about taking supplements. Make sure that that you do your research, or you can email me and maybe Natalia as well, so that we can do the research for you or we can guide you. Be very careful about taking supplements that have not been proven to help. And some of these supplements might be culturally determinate. They may be social determinants of health, things that you've grown up with, but be very careful about taking the supplements. Natalia.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think one good suggestion would be to try, if it's possible, to try to get a comprehensive blood work done and see where you actually are lacking, or you have maybe too much or too little of something, and then base your decision with supplements, together with your doctor on that. And also being careful the type of supplements that you use. It's not a very, very well regulated industry, so. Right. Findings show that some of the supplements don't contain what they're supposed to contain, or not the amounts that they're supposed to contain, or there are other chemicals present that are not even on the label. So you have to make sure it's good quality brand, and there haven't been any reports or issues with that.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. For the sake of time, I'm actually going to hand it over to Robert to close us out for today.
Thank you, Brianna. Today's event is part of the Florida Department of Health, Miami-Dade County Office of Community Health and Planning's new webinar series called Healthy Happens Here. 3 events will be held each month and will cover a variety of topics, including nutrition, mental health, tobacco cessation, and chronic disease self-management. Our second event this month is entitled Tobacco Marketing and the 4 Ps. It will take place on Monday, November 30th from 1 to 2 p.m. Join us in learning about addressing tobacco marketing tactics and the industry use of the 4 Ps of marketing to recruit new, young smokers and sustain current smokers. Please take a moment to register for this event by using the link provided in the chat box. In addition, please stay tuned for our December events, which will be announced shortly. Finally, please make sure to visit healthymiamidade.org to receive the latest updates from the Consortium for Healthy Miami-Dade, as well as other health educational information. Thank you again for joining us, and a great thank you to Natalia and Islara for their presentations. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.